Welcome back to For Love and Justice. Today we're going to recap one of my favorite shows of all time that I only started binge watching a couple weekends ago, but I watched the whole thing in 2 days. It's The Summer I Turned Pretty. And I'm also wearing my Trash Takes Itself Out Every Time shirt in honor of Taylor Swift getting engaged. These two things are related. The show has Taylor Swift songs in every single episode, which is crazy enough, not even like why I love it. That's just a cherry on top. But we're going to get into all of it. Now, heads up, this is a recap episode of season 3, episode 8, Last Kiss. So, spoilers abound. You've been warned.
Fighting evil by the moonlight, winning love by daylight.
Okay, so first we're going to recap, and then we're going to get into my initial thoughts. Then I have a couple questions and complaints. And then stick around because I'm going to get into Jeremiah's redemption. I am unapologetically Team Jeremiah, and I will explain what I mean by that and why I loved this episode so freaking much. Okay, so let's recap. So last episode, we remember we're getting ready for Belly and Jeremiah's wedding, right? So Conrad confessed his undying love for Belly, which everyone fucking knew. So this episode starts with the morning after. Taylor texts Belly that it's safe to come downstairs because all the boys went on a fishing trip. So Belly heads downstairs, and who's there but Conrad, of course, because he didn't feel like going on his brother's fishing trip after attempting to ruin his brother's wedding and steal his brother's fiance. He then doesn't feel like going fishing. So then Conrad goes full classic Conrad and claims he was drunk. He didn't mean what he said. Classic Conrad. And Belly calls him out on it, rightly so. Good for Belly to call out his sick little games. Might I remind you, Belly once said in season 2, Conrad gives and Conrad takes away. And this is why I'm not Team Conrad. He can't stick to one emotion. Every time he has a vulnerable moment, he then has to lie about it and run away. And even after all this time, thought there was some emotional maturity, thought there was some growth. No. So then after Belly gives Conrad the business, then Taylor gives him the business and bitches him out, which I love her for. She is really showing up this season for Belly. And I have to say, when I started watching the show in season 1, and she pulled the classic toxic friend move where she made out with her best friend's brother on her best friend's birthday, she seemed toxic to me. And I had my doubts, but she's really come through, especially during this wedding. And she's been a really good friend to Belly. So then the girlies go to the spa, and Belly refuses to talk to her best friend about what's actually going on, the reality of the situation. Then we get to the rehearsal and the dinner afterward. And side note, Jeremiah ordered Belly lobster rolls, which is significant because it's the only thing he's contributed to this wedding. What is it the kids do these days? God. I'm old. So that, I need to do research. So Belly and Jeremiah make a toast to everyone, which is lovely until they get to Conrad, and it's super awkward because Conrad can't control his face when Jeremiah calls him loyal or when he calls Belly his soulmate. And then Belly finds out that Jared took a job at his dad's company without talking to her first. And I'm really proud of her in this scene and in this episode in general. I just think she's handling the real life. I think she's handling the real life moments of a relationship really well because relationships aren't perfect, whether you're Team Conrad or Team Jeremiah. It doesn't really matter because these are messy, they're not real people, but they're messy like real people can be. Relationships can be complicated. But Belly really handles this situation well, in my opinion. She points out that she wants whatever will make him happy, but also establishes that they decide their future together. Jens, don't lick your butt while I'm doing this. Jens, no licking. So then the crew goes out for ice cream, and Jer calls out Conrad for not being a very good best man. And Conrad points out that he is co-best man. But Steven is up in Denise's ass until they kiss, and Denise says that it is like kissing a plant. No sparks. Thank God. Thank God they got that out of the way. And you know what? A platonic work marriage is a better deal anyway. So then it's the night before the wedding, and Belly's restless. So she goes for a little swim, as she does. And I liked this scene because I kept expecting one of the Fisher boys to pop up and ruin her peace. And so I was really glad when they didn't. She just got to have a peaceful moment where she got to do her meditative activity and decide to tell Jeremiah the truth. She cleared her head, and now she wants to clear her conscience. And so she goes to Jeremiah because she doesn't want to have secrets in their marriage. She doesn't want to bring secrets into their marriage. Again, this is healthy. It's not great timing that it's the night before the effing wedding, but we're getting healthier. We were entering toxic zone, and now we're getting we're coming out of it. So then Jer wants to hurt Conrad, and Belly talks him down, and they agree they're going to get married the next day, no matter what. The next morning comes around. Jeremiah is nowhere to be found, of course. Belly tells Steven that he's missing, and she tells him about Conrad. And Steven goes full big brother, lays into Conrad, and tells him to fix what he broke and find Jeremiah. So Conrad sets out to find him, almost has a panic attack, which I don't know about y'all, but when I was watching, I was like, okay, I relate, I get it, but get your shit together, my dude. Go find your brother. So he finds Jeremiah, and Jeremiah's pissed, obviously. And this is another good scene because Conrad is like, you can punch me, man. It'll make you feel better. And Jeremiah is like, no, it'll make you feel better. Shots fired. A lot of truth has been spoken this episode. It's been a lot of like pining and yearning this season, which is incredible. We love it. But a lot of secrets and miscommunications and people hiding their feelings, which, I mean, that's what the show is known for. But so it was really nice to just see everyone kind of have their moments and come clean, and the different strands threading together, if that makes sense. So anyway, then Jeremiah does end up punching Conrad, which was satisfying, I have to say. Conrad also gives Jeremiah the letter that Susanna wrote for him before she died for his wedding day, but it turns out that I guess Laurel accidentally switched it up. I don't really know how that happens. Does that mean Laurel wrote the names on the envelope? Because I assumed it would have been Susanna in her handwriting. So I don't know how that mess up happened, or did Laurel do it on purpose? Is she a messy queen? Is that where Messy Belly gets it from? These are questions I have that I should have waited till later in the show to add to my question section, but I do what I want here. I digress. He reads the letter. It's actually meant for Conrad on his wedding day to Belly. So presumptuous of Susanna. I've seen different think pieces about how Susanna is actually the villain, and I don't think she's a villain, but she was human and flawed. So yeah, the letter hurts Jeremiah even more, and he's like, I'll go back, but I'm not going back with you, and you're not my brother. And Basically, he tells him the same thing Belly did. He's like, I want you to leave. Get the fuck out of here. You're dead to me. So then Taylor pulls best friend rank and tells Belly she doesn't think she should get married today. That she's basically choosing Jer over everything, over Paris, over her, their friendship, like over herself, and how that's not love, that's codependency. And this is another good example of Taylor being a really good friend and doing the really hard thing here. And I think she's not wrong. I think at the heart of it, codependency is what happened here. Belly and Jeremiah, as she said, pieced each other back together after Susanna died. And she doesn't know where she ends and Jeremiah begins. And sounds like codependency, babes. I mean, they are young. They're 21. They've known each other their whole lives. They've never left cousins. But we're going to get to that in a minute. My thoughts on how everyone should end up. So Steven comes in and defends Taylor, and wrong time, wrong place, makes things worse. But then he makes things better by telling Taylor that there's nothing between him and Denise. And then they eye fuck, and Steven says to be continued. Hot. So then Jared comes back to the club to ice his hand, and Conrad won't leave Belly alone, per usual. He tells her he's leaving. You could have left a note. You could have texted. He lives for the drama. So he tells her that they likely won't see each other again for a long time, if at all. Because he's going to go lick his wounds like he always does after breaking everything in sight. So then Belly and Jeremiah talk, and I loved this scene. This scene was everything. It took me through all the emotions. Belly said all the right things in that situation, I think. But Jeremiah, at the end of the day, knows he deserves someone who looks at him the way that Belly and Conrad look at each other. And I want that for him too. And I think they both know deep down that no matter how much they do love each other, because they do, it's not enough. Love is not always enough. Jer also drops the bomb that he knew the whole time about Belly and Conrad being together at the cousin's beach house over Christmas break, and he was waiting for her to tell him. And this also gives so much context to him picking a fight, him cheating, everyone just being super chill about them being like Belly and Conrad being around each other all the time. I thought it was weird. So it's good to have that context of like, no, it actually has still been fucking up their relationship. There's always an underlying source. And I love the line Jeremiah tells Jeremiah tells Belly, you can't marry me to erase him. I think Jeremiah, and again, we'll get to him in a second, but he's gotten so much heat this season, and a lot of it rightfully so. He's done some shit. But I think this line and this scene show a lot of emotional maturity and growth for him, for his character. So then they call off the wedding, and Belly heads for Paris. And right as she's about to board, who does she see? Conrad. And she's looking at him longingly. She starts to step out of line, and that's where the episode ends. Of course it does. Okay, so my initial thoughts. Holy shit, this was a good episode. There were so many twists and turns, so many moments where you thought shit was going to hit the fan, and it just built and built until the end. And then the end was just chef's kiss. Did anyone else feel like it was the finale? Because I know we have three episodes left. But it was giving series finale. And I'm glad it's not. I'm glad we are still like shit kind of blew up. But we still need resolution on some things like Steven and Taylor. There's potential. A lot of people have actually said that Steven and Taylor's relationship mirrors Belly and Conrad's relationship, and how Taylor is a lot like Conrad and doesn't think very highly of herself. And so that's why she doesn't fight for Steven. Very similar, and I'm into it. I'm into that theory. But going into these final episodes, the books, although they have strayed quite a bit, or not, the books haven't strayed. The books with the books, the TV show has strayed quite a bit from the books. And this episode, Last Kiss, pretty much follows, it ends with the last chapter of the last book. And then there is apparently I have not read these, but there is a short epilogue after. So we're basically entering mostly uncharted territory here. So that's exciting. I feel like I caught up to this show just in time. And then I like to count the Taylor songs every episode. And there were two, I believe, in this episode. There was Us, which is Taylor's song with not Phoebe Bridgers. Gracie Abrams. There was Us with Gracie and Taylor. And then there was Cardigan. And I loved the placement of Cardigan. At first I was like, why? This is weird. I was expecting Last Kiss to play. And I think I did hear the chords of Last Kiss start to play a couple of times. I might be crazy. I need to rewatch and confirm. But that's what I heard. But Cardigan was perfect because she runs to the Fisher Boys for comfort and she can't let go of anything from her childhood. Okay, I have a few questions and complaints. First of all, and most importantly, why does Taylor's hair look like complete dog shit? You're at your best friend's wedding. Why is it wet? We've never seen this hairstyle from Taylor, I don't think, before. So why? I know that's really like small and insignificant. But still, as a woman who's been to many a friend's wedding, you put in more effort. And I also have to say, why was Belly doing her hair and makeup alone? Where were her bridesmaids? I understand that she's like under distress. Maybe she wanted some alone time, but why is she doing her own hair and makeup? Again, I understand she's 21 and probably, what's his name? Adam? Is that the dad? Adam's paying for the wedding, but I'm sure he's not like coughing up extra money for hair and makeup. So like I get that she doesn't have anyone hired, but it just bothered me that she was just all alone. And then I also have a question / gripe about Conrad telling Belly that they wouldn't see each other for a long time just to turn around and put them in the same place, the airport, the same time, like 2 scenes later. Why? Just to tease us and be cruel? Because at this point now I'm scared that Belly is going to just run off with Conrad when she needs to just go to Paris alone and find herself. All of these characters need to just leave this place and go find themselves. And finally, I'm going to talk about Jeremiah's redemption. If you've made it this long, if you stuck around for this, thank you. Like I said, I only started watching the show a couple weekends ago, but I watched it in literally 2 days. I did almost nothing else. I cried a lot, as one does when they watch The Summer I Turned Pretty. But I was adamantly Team Jeremiah. And I still am, but for different reasons. Season 3 has really been tough as a Jeremiah stan. And so I don't think I can say I'm Team Jeremiah in the sense that I want them to get married and be endgame. I'm very glad they did not get married, for the record. But in the earlier seasons, I was Team Jeremiah because I just wanted Belly to give him a chance. I was so tired of Conrad. I was going to say getting in the way, but I think it could be argued that Jeremiah very much got in the way of Belly and Conrad. But I was glad he did because Conrad is not consistent. And Taylor called that shit out in this episode by saying, which I think it was projection. I think she's projecting that she doesn't think she can make Steven happy. But she did say to Conrad that, like, do you really think you can make her happy? Do you really think you have what it takes? And so ultimately I was Team Jeremiah because there was no question of that ever. He was gonna show up for Belly. Yes, he ended up cheating on her. But I have just always had a real soft spot in my heart. Not always. I just started watching it 2 weeks ago. But I really feel for Jeremiah. He's Susanna's sunshine boy. He's our golden retriever boy. But no one ever chooses Jeremiah. And so I was really happy when Belly did choose him. And I'm really rooting for him to go find his person, to go find his people who will actually choose him. I think, thank God, he and Steven, are good friends. I also loved that Steven told Conrad, you've been gone these past few years. And he kind of pointed out, like, Jeremiah calls our grandmother. Like, Jeremiah's been here. I see him every day. Like, he's the constant. And that was why I was Team Jeremiah and why I wanted him and Belly to be endgame. Again, didn't want them to get married at age 21. My God. But yeah, I just think Jeremiah very much has lived in Conrad's shadow his whole life, and Conrad's just the golden boy, and his mother and father, like, his mom thought he was the one who was going to marry Belly, and his dad, like, favors him blatantly. And who picks Jeremiah at the end of the day? I think he deserves someone to do that for him. And I think Belly does as well. So I'm still not going to say I'm Team Conrad, but I am team everyone leaving Cousins Beach and living their goddamn life. I am team Belly, get your ass to Paris, because there's more to life. Okay, guys, that's the show. I want to know what you thought about this episode. So drop your opinions in the comments below and tell me where I fucked up, what I got wrong. I'm sure there's some things. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.